Hello everyone, welcome to episode 27. Oh, listen to that, such a good sound. Bit fizzy. Welcome to the deployment episode for something road. Corunna road? Corunna road? Not quite sure how you pronounce that because I don't know Spanish. Okay. So we got some prisoners or something to rescue. We have snow terrain, mostly clear. Seems like there's going to be some cloud though. Very much mostly clear terrain. We have fortifications either side of the map, which, according to the briefing, are mined and all the rest of it, and they're going to therefore be a total nightmare to deal with. And we are surrounded by infantry, but we have supply bases here, so we can't be encircled. But nevertheless, this is a wall of infantry here, which we will not be able to do anything about. At least we won't be able to do anything about all of this on the high ground. These two out in the open, though, we can victimize. Right. Let's start with checking what prototypes we got. Okay, we received some Fiat BR-20s, which, by their appearance, they are auxiliary prototypes. Now, auxiliary prototypes, people say, oh, you know, industry connections is not very good in Spanish War because of auxiliary prototypes. You might get auxiliary prototypes and they're one use only. But you will be using your auxiliary slots, and I don't mind having high-end throwaway gear. However, I think that this plane is actually garbage. If I remember correctly, it's the upgrade to the SM-79. No, it's not. It's the upgrade to the BA-65, isn't it? Yeah, it's just slightly better in every regard, although it's slightly worse against tanks, which is significant. Or actually, it's sort of more like the SM-81. It is a straight upgrade for the SM-81. The issue is that the SM-79 is better in every way. So as far as prototypes go, it's not actually it's not even useful as a throwaway unit, because it's actually a unit that's just not very good. Just outright not very good. Anyway, we won't be using it, is the bottom line. Okay, so we're over strength here because we got an extra tank. And what a great tank it is. The first thing I'm going to do is assign Fast Learner to it so we can bring it up to speed. It has excellent stats. Excellent ground defense. Everything about it is good. Just needs experience points, really. We also have our standards BT5s and T26s. Thanks to the previous mission, we captured an adequate amount of T26 replacements and a solid amount of BT5 replacements, so there is no need to change anything. Interestingly, I do like the Trubia. This is this anti-infantry monster with 11 infantry attack and rapid fire 1.5x and 1 close defense. I do very much like the idea of this tank. Even though it's not necessarily very good against against other tanks. Now, based on the information that we have in the deployment, we see a lot of enemy infantry and we don't really see much in the way of enemy vehicles. So it might be a consideration to deploy that. The question is, what would we replace in order to deploy it? If we decided to deploy that, could we consider converting one of our BT-5s, for example? What we would get is an all-round superior tank, except in the case of its anti-tank capability. Well, that's something I'm going to have to come back to as a thought, because we need to go through the rest of our gear first. Right, considering the distances, there's 25 turns here, and this map is not very big. So it makes me wonder if anti-tank emplacements are going to play a solid role here. Just to note, the Panzer 1 Breda is no longer a, or Breda, whatever, it's no longer a prototype. It does remain, though, total trash. So, don't expect me to ever deploy it. Oh, in terms of recons, our recons have grown immensely. And we have managed to acquire copies of this unbelievably deadly BA-6, which enjoys vastly improved stats, frankly terrifying anti-tank capability for a recon. And the only price that you pay is that the movement is slightly less. Likewise, you don't pay the movement price for this, but you do get a somewhat superior recon car. I now have a great deal of spares for this. The Bilbo is obviously total garbage. And we also have the hugely superior AAC 937, but once again this recon car is a little bit slower, and I think inferior to the BA-6, which is easily the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my recon cars maneuverable and deploy more UNLs, but I will consider deploying the anti-tank variants in the future. This would be a good map to deploy them, actually, because the anti-tank ones, because it is a small map. So their reduced movement might not be an issue. Okay, so we've got our 10cm guns and also our 122 with one in spare. We've got the anti-aircraft guns, which we brought along. And we have our aircraft here. Now, one thing I need to do, which I forgot to do after redoing Toledo, is put these up to 12 strength, because you can do that for free. Honestly, it would be tempting to actually take them up to 15 strength. So one thing that's quite important in the deployment is I am running short on junkers. I don't have very many spare. So we should seriously consider taking junkers off frontline duty until such time as I can get more spares. Right. So anyway, I've talked through what there is to do in terms of upgrades, which is not much. There are no new fighters, by the way. I took away this guy's demolition expert capability, and he is actually not He's got a special camouflage, but he shouldn't do. Okay. So, first things first, we've got to decide what we're not taking with us. Let's shuffle away the anti-tank gun for now. I feel like we have a fair amount of anti-tank capability. Although I did want to do some leveling up for it. Let's shuffle away one of our tacticals. Now, I guess in an ideal world, I would want to change this from temporarily change it from being a junker to being something else, to free up the spares. And I think that that's wise. Let's do that. Okay. So, the reason why I did that was because that frees up the spares for this. We have very few spares remaining. 12 now, but obviously with with an extra wing, we would only have we would only have 2. Then we'll shuffle away the more experienced plane. Okay, so we got 2 slots available. Right, let's have a look at, because I actually don't seem to have an airport. No, I've got 1 airport here. 2 airports? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's... So I have no fighter upgrades. Let's actually shuffle this back in. Shuffle in the low experience one. Try and keep experienced stuff in reserve. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know the status of how much air the enemy's got, or how useful air is going to be. I think what I'll do is these are like 2 slots each, aren't they? They're honestly quite expensive, slot-wise. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Cheese the system. I'm going to move a fighter to reserve, the most experienced one, freeing up 2 slots. And then I'm going to deploy that extra tank that I wanted, the infantry murdering one. Oh, it's a 3-slotter. Well, that's annoying. Hmm. 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's stow this fighter as well, because I've got a great idea. So let's bring this along. We'll leave it at standard strength. Try and get these guys as much experience as possible, as quickly as possible. Let's reassign the... no, not you. Let's reassign the fast learner to you. Okay. And we'll shuffle our anti-tank gun back in so we can get some experience. Alright. So, I guess what you're thinking now is, what am I going to do about anti-air? And the answer is, I'm going to use auxiliaries for that. Because my fighters are actually rubbish. I've come to the realization that my fighters are really just not very good. Okay. This is the only airport that's actually a real airport, so let's rearrange this. Yeah, so the realization has come to me that my fighters are actually total garbage. But my Italian friends enjoy a superior and unbelievably inexpensive fighter plane. So why not just use my auxiliary slots to just deploy these cheap fighters? Which even, you know, with my fighters gaining experience, are going to be so much better. And rely on them to get rid of the enemy for me. Now, I do obviously want to train up my German fighter plane crews. And I have been. Because eventually I will get my hands on a good German fighter plane. So, we can't do this the whole campaign or whatever, but I just figure that for now, if the enemy's going to be deploying these I-16s, my standard fighters, they might as well just go home, because they're not going to get anything done. I'll keep one of my fighters in the fight, the least experienced one, just so I can bring it up. Okay, alright. So that's the aerial situation dealt with, or is it? Well, not quite. I also want to deploy some spy planes. Let's deploy 2 spy planes as auxiliaries. Okay, that's our air dealt with. All that's left is to buy some infantry. And no, I won't be buying trucks for them because I'm cheap. Let me undeploy this. Oh, you can't undeploy it, can you? Okay, it's fine. Right. Now the question is, where do we deploy our stuff? Let's go here with anti-air artillery. Anti-air here. Artillery. And in the center area are better artillery and better anti-air. Might as well sit my anti-tank gun in the airport tile. Let's get the recons on the edges to do recon for me. BT5s on the edges to support the sides, and then we will deploy the heavy weapons in the middle, ready to commence their hosing duty. Okay, one last thing we need to do is deploy our legendary prestige generator. Just in something that's not going to die, basically. What is the most risk-free unit in my army? It's a good question. What is the least likely thing to ever die? I mean, artillery, if exposed, can die very easily. I'd probably say it's my heavy anti-aircraft gun. It tends to hang around the back, and I tend to not risk it. The man, the myth, the legend, the anti-aircraft gun. Okay, and that's it for now. Yeah, as much as I'd like to train up my fighter wings, my fighters are actually pretty terrible. So we'll have to wait. The only thing left that I could do if I wanted to do it is consider replacing my artilleries with... I now have a very reasonable supply of motorized 15cm guns. And I always kept my German 10.5s around because they are the only artillery for which I have infinite replacements. Well, I'm starting to reach a point where I think I have enough enemy artillery that would never be a problem. Since these are directly superior. Oh, the 122, sorry, is directly superior to the 10cm, and I have a not unreasonable amount of spares for that. In my opinion, the 15cm is a great piece of kit, but it is a little bit core slot expensive at the moment. Anyway, I'll give it some thought. I still wouldn't say I have enough to just, you know, deploy them willy-nilly. I mean, having 3 artillery is actually really good at the moment because of the sheer amount of area to cover. Okay. Alright, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoy the deployment and will join me next time for the mission.